sort of build AI agents within n8n. So, and as we go through, feel free to ask any questions in the chat and I'll pick them up as we go. And at the end, we have some time to have a live discussion. But yeah, so that's the agenda. So, yeah, so my name is Aki. So just to give a quick introduction about myself, been in the AI field for the last 12 years or so. So yeah, since um, from starting point from like things like Java, Weka, just like the traditional machine learning times now to the agentic sort of AI revolution. So my background has been predominantly started with computer science and moved on to machine learning, now into AI engineering. So I've got a PhD in machine learning and a postdoc as well, based out of the UK, and currently running my own consultancy firm that looks to build end-to-end AI solutions for corporate. So that's a quick introduction about myself. Would love to connect with everyone on LinkedIn. So I do share a lot of content around AI, obviously about n8n, but also things like AI engineering and all sorts of AI-based sort of coding tools, etc. So feel free to connect with me. If you search my name, you can find about more about my own LinkedIn. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Um, so the focus today is about looking into how you can sort of use n8n. So you've probably seen all of these videos out there because n8n has been one of those tools which was complex enough and also simple enough so that quite a lot of people can use it. But obviously, there are sort of limitations around n8n compared to building something from scratch, but you can get a lot of work done with n8n using their toolset. So on a high level, n8n is a tool that helps you build automations, and it is predominantly built around the AI integrations a lot more than compared to things like Zapier, which was in the past. And there are quite a few nuances around this. If you have used Zapier before, it's pretty much similar, but it has much more flexibility, I would say, and also it has other features like being it open source and like have a really strong ecosystem around this. So I think we'll get more into this as we go. But just to set the scene, just want to explain like what n8n is. So if you can see on the right hand side, it's one of a snapshot of one of the possible AI agents that you can build. So n8n will have a canvas like this where you can do drag and drops and do connections and sort of have specific nodes to create like a workflow. And based on that, you could actually create an agent very easily and then sort of play around with it. We'll show you like a agent that I've built and how to sort of tweak that and how you can sort of use that within your sort of workflows. Um, so as I mentioned, today we're going to discuss about what n8n is, why we use it, what are AI agents. So I think that's a really core component of this discussion, like what are, because this word is thrown around a lot. So there are a few confusions around what an AI agent means, and then a bit of n8n fundamentals, the canvas, different components n8n has, the flow logic, and about data handling. We'll also go into a live demo, trying to see how you interact with one of the agents and like how you tweak the agent to do a quick sort of multi-agent system that you can sort of do a Google search and get some live answers. And I'll also talk about like how you can extend that to probably connect your calendar, connect other tools like Notion, etc. if need be. So n8n has quite a few tool connection that you can do. Then at the end, we'll talk about some templates where you can look at directly get templates to use within your sort of business domain so that you can bring something and directly start editing and building, making it your own sort of workflow. Things about export and import features, and also about streaming responses, where you can sort of have natural chat interaction within, like if you're building like a chat agent, you can have this streaming sort of experience very easily. Yeah, so that's the overall process for today's conversation. And as always, feel free to ask questions as we go. So I think it's good to like understand n8n in the context of automation tools. So I think one of the biggest difference is that why it was very prominent is that n8n is like an open source tool. it has two versions. There's a cloud version, it's a hosted version that they provide, but also there's the open source version that you can go and host yourself. There are minor sort of drawbacks with the open source version, that you could hit some limitations, but it's very close to the production sort of the deployed version, so you can get almost everything on the local version. So this was quite critical, especially with the enterprise where you don't want to send your data to the cloud, external sort of vendors. It's quite important, like to have the ability to deploy this within your sort of local environment. So that's why one of the reasons n8n got quite popular. And it also very similar to Zapier. You'll have like a sort of a visual type of canvas that you can connect very easily with APIs, databases, and other AI models. So the best way I explain is like it's like Zapier with LangChain and with local control. So you would have the automation type similar to Zapier, but it also has quite a few AI integrations, pretty much advanced. So you can build like agents like LangChain, and then you, if need be, you could have the local control by deploying this locally. And you could build sort of workflows with can be invoked by some sort of a logic, whether if you get some um, input from a different endpoint, or it could be based on time. Like you can sort of trigger a workflow every time something needs to run. So depending on your sort of business use case, you could create these workflows where you can customize them and have multiple sort of workflows as well. As I mentioned earlier, there are two versions, two ways that you can go about that. You could have self-host. So if you have some sort of a instance cloud server that you can host locally, other option is like they provide the cloud version. You directly create an account, pay a subscription fee around I think $20, and then you can use that. And as long as you use your own models, you put your own keys, you can use this for that amount. So uh, obviously you might hit certain threshold with scaling at some point, but for starting off, getting like a really early stage workflow done and getting into production, it's not a problem. And definitely that's the easiest way to like try this rather than trying to build it from scratch and host it locally. I mean, hosting is also relatively easy, it's nothing complex, but if you are new to this, definitely start with the cloud version. So I think the I discussed this on the previous slide as well, a bit like why n8n, right, compared to other sort of automation tools. So you have the choice between having the local deployment, like the local and private deployment on your own server, laptop. So you can sort of have your data secure as much as possible, as long as maybe you don't want to like send that information to an external endpoint. So you have a lot of flexibility. So this is mostly n8n is built using JS. So it's a Node.js server that's running, and you can do like sort of drag and drop style sort of logic creation to create workflows. So that's quite flexible and it's very intuitive, I would say. And it's very AI focused workflow. So it's when you start building and comparing things like Zapier, you can see definitely the features that you may have. The integrations are quite advanced and ahead compared to Zapier with regard to like AI related integration. So that's a really good feature. So if you like think about AI sort of integrations, this is one of the best tools to try it out. And it has quite a lot of integrations. So around I think now I think around 5,500 plus integrations right now, and you can also connect MCP servers and also custom HTTP endpoints. So that means that you can, if you have an endpoint, you can directly connect that. So you don't have to worry too much about the integration side. As long as you can get an endpoint exposed, you can connect that to your workflow and get the work done. It's relatively cost efficient. So it's not like Zapier where you get billed for every run. You can sort of get a subscription, and based on that, that's like a relatively fixed price. Obviously, there are limitations, but up to a certain level, you will be sort of at a constant cost. Would be the cost will be constant for you, and it's composable. So I think like what I mean here is that you can visually create quite a few workflows. So you would have sort of a JSON structure to your workflow, so you can sort of copy paste this if need be, edit that. But generally, wiring things up visually, you should be able to build your workflows really fast. You'll see that in a bit, but that's the beauty of n8n. So I think before we dive into building an agent, it's important to understand what an AI agent means. There are quite a few variations of the definition. So I mean, we don't have to like have a 100% perfect definition. It just understand like what we're trying to build here, right? So I think the idea here is that we are building some sort of a software solution that can, given a specific task, can think about how to get to that specific task. If you ask something, ask the app or the tool that you're building to do something, it needs to figure out, okay, what needs to do, right? So you tap into LLM and it figures out, okay, to do task one, task A, I need to do task B, C, D, and then I can sort of get to the answer. So the general principle around AI agents is that you given specific task goal, it figures out what it needs to do, and also understand what sort of tools it has. Like when I mean what I mean by tools is that the type of external services that you can sort of connect to, whether it's APIs, whether it's databases, it could be tool like Notion, Calendar that has been connected. So you have a sense of available tools like similar to a human that you may have. We are aware of the fingers, hands, legs that we can sort of use to get something done with our brains, we think. So likewise, the agent itself, the app that we develop, would have a sense of what sort of things it can do, and it will use that context knowledge, and also the the level of reasoning and intelligence comes from a LLM, um, to figure out how to get to that sort of endpoint, right? So and then it will sort of go step by step and go on relatively go on a loop. So what that means is like you'll sort of do certain tasks and get some results back and see if that sort of fulfills your initial goal. And if that's not the case, you'll start again and try something else. And so iteratively sort of improve, try to get better and get to the goal. So definitely this can go infinitely if you don't have some sort of a cap to stop these, whether it's the number of iteration that you do or some level of I would say um, like a threshold for you to like if you successfully let's say if you're trying to answer a specific math equation and if it get to a specific threshold you can sort of okay you'll stop there. If you're 70% accurate you stop there and sort of move on, right? So one of the best examples to really going to look at is like can you create like sort of a chat based agent that has a memory component, so what that means it remembers what you ask, and also you can sort of tap into the OpenAI sort of endpoint and do a Google search. Like, can you sort of ask questions with the intelligence layer, not like a normal Google search, but the agent can sort of reason as well about the results and like get a summary of it. Like very similar to, let's say, Perplexity, I would say. But can you do it from scratch? Can you sort of build something that to your need, and you can sort of have that within your sort of application. So that's the focus. That's a good example for AI agent. Obviously, this is a very simple vanilla version of it. The complex agents can be you connect multiple agents together. Quite a few tools. Recently, like last week, I read a paper. Like there's a one of the I think the Chinese model Kimi 2. I think it has the capability to connect to like parallel run the 200 or 400 sort of parallel tool calling. So that's really strong. So here we are talking about a couple of tool calling, but like you can sort of tap into quite a few like external services and run commands on them and get results back and see how to progress with the task. So definitely there are much more complex scenarios that you can build. But for today's sort of session, we're going to focus on a very simple scenario where we understand the fundamentals of how to build an AI agent. Um, so this is I showed a similar sort of a, architecture before. So when you try to build an AI agent within n8n, you'll get a sort of a architecture like this. Obviously, you can see the simplest things are you have the agent component, and it has the chat model, which you can connect whether it's OpenAI, Gemini, you can connect whatever you feel like. and then you can connect a memory node. What that means is like to remember what you're interacting with, and like relatively have this long-term sort of memory, like similar to that if you speak with ChatGPT, you'll see like it remembers what you're asking it. But if you directly tap into the endpoint and try to create something, it won't remember what you're saying, right? So when you create like a sort of a chat-based agent, this is quite important. So this is like a simple memory, but you can have like things like quadrant, Redis cache, all types of sort of memory layers. You experiment and see what works for you, and you can connect other types of tools. Like if you want to send like a Slack message, whether you want to send email, you want to read data from Google search, you want to read data from calendars, you can connect tools. So the AI agent understands. So these are the tools that I can access, and based on the requests, you access them and get the data. And when you finish that, you can trigger and go to the next stage. Like if it's like chain set of agents, or not just one agent, you have multiple agents, and you can sort of sequentially go, or it could be like sort of a graph-based sort of a agent that you can create. So there's so much flexibility that you can build. Like you can make it so much complex, but the idea is like keep it simple as possible, and like get define your work, define your agent to get the work done. So simpler you can build, easy to manage, and easy to sort of audit, so that you understand like how the agent is behaving. Um, yeah, so I think that's on like highlight about the agentic architecture within n8n. But we'll probably go to example now. Yeah, I think before I go to that, let me check the chat if there are specific questions. I think there's a really interesting conversation going. I will come to that, but feel free to sort of ask any questions as usual. Amazing. So n8n has quite a few components. So if I go to, yeah, so I'll probably explain this going to the n8n sort of workflow, so that you understand what I'm talking about. So n8n would be so this is the cloud version. Even if you deploy locally, you'll have a UI like this, so that you have the opportunity to sort of drag and drop certain things, sort of create sort of workflows. So that's great. So you'll come to, if you go to creating like a AI agent or any kind of workflow, you'll come to something called Canvas. So the Canvas has the capability to create workflows, and you have the opportunity to like go here and select specific nodes that you can put, right? So you have, if I go to AI, so there are different types of nodes that you can connect to. If you select like AI agent, so it will pop up a message like this. So you can sort of configure certain things within this, whether you want to have a specific output format, you can enforce that. And if you need to have different models as fallback, you can do that. And we'll just keep as it is and just uh, save it. So yeah, I think just trying to connect to this agent I have developed. Um, yeah, I'll pick it up separately. So I think like, so you bring something like this, right? So this is like the boilerplate AI agent model, which is very easier. Like if you haven't built agents before, so you have something like this, and if you have the chat model, which is to connect like the reasoning part of the model. So if you select that, you can select any type of a model from here, and I'll say OpenAI model, and it will open up this node where you can sort of do some configuration. You can directly select what is needed. So for you to have this OpenAI account, you need to set your OpenAI key. So if you go here, you can see I've already set my OpenAI key, and so it's already set up. So this is a place you will have to have some credits on your OpenAI endpoint. If you don't have credits on this one, you can use Gemini. Gemini has free API that you can try out. So but yeah, so there's an option to select what you want to do. And then you select the type of model you want to select. There are quite a few models which is coming from OpenAI side. So these are different types of machine learning LLMs provided by OpenAI. So you can sort of select one that sort of helps you build what you want to build. And then you got a few options to set. For example, these are like um, the parameters that you need to set when you're calling the endpoint on the OpenAI side. And so things like maximum retries, temperature, which sort of controls the creativity of the results. So top P, very similar parameter that sort of controls the variability of the results, and frequency penalty, all types of things, right? Even if you have response format, you can sort of have it in JSON. So what that means is like if you want the model to sort of provide results in a certain structure, you can sort of enforce that. So things like that. So you have quite a few options to configure this, but like we're not sort of like going into detail on what sort of configuration that you can do, but be aware that you can do these configurations to get what you want. So that's connector. So that means amazing. Then you need to connect like a memory layer. So as I said earlier, it is to keep track of your conversation history. You have few options here. There's Postgres, chat memory, MongoDB, but Redis is also nice, but we can stick to simple memory. So you don't need to have any credentials. You just add a simple memory. It's provided by n8n, which is not the best, which is simple enough to get something done, but it's not the best sort of memory out there. And then you can do tool calling. So just to reiterate what our tools means, these are like things that the agent can access at trying to get something done. So it could be an external API, it could be a MCP tool, it could be another database, it could be another application like Google Drive or even Google Search. So you have so many sort of tools that you can pick from. So as you can see, Airtable, Anthropic tool, I mean AWS toolset, Bamboo HR if you need to connect to the app, HR tool, what else? ClickUp, and so yeah, I think you have like closer to 500, 600 sort of integrations, and if you don't find what you want, you can create using HTTP request tool. So that means like you can create an endpoint, export an endpoint from the custom service that you have built and sort of connect it from here. So that's how you sort of add like a HTTP request model, which is relatively complex if you haven't worked with these kind of things before. So we won't use it right now. We'll use something relatively simple. What you're gonna try and do is like add like a um, Google search. So that means the agent can do live search if you ask it to do something. To do that, we're using a node called SERP. So SERP is the API that we can use to do Google search directly. So if you do it programmatically, you can sort of use this. And you need to set up the SERP API account, and you need to go to SERP and create an account and get the API key and set it up. So then you can sort of use this. So the good thing about SERP is it has a free quota, like around 250 or 300 sort of calls. So that's more than enough if you're testing this out. So you can use that, and you can also set quite a few options here. What that means is like from which country you want to do the search, the domain, language of the search. So any kind of a like parameter that we can set within Google Search API, you can have that. So right now, I don't care much about these options. I'm going to leave them as it is and just sort of close it. So now you have the agent, you have the chat model, you have the memory piece, and you have the one of the tools, and you can add more tools, but there's one more tool. So for you to invoke this, you need to have to connect. This is a chat node. What that means is like there are so many ways to trigger this. Could be from external endpoint calling. It could be based on time. It could be based on some sort of a logic value change in a database. So there are so many ways you can trigger this. So you go here, you'll see thousands of triggers. I'm going to try and see. Um, I'm going to select on chat message. Sorry. Okay. So yeah. So I've already added the chat message below. Just to show, which is something I've tested before. So it will be like this. I mean, if I delete this, I bring it up here. So this is be something like this. So this would be the final agent for you to like do something, ask a question and get an answer. So before I run it, I'm gonna like connect this to the agent created below, which is the same agent, but the agent that I've tested before. So if you connect this, very similar. You have OpenAI chat model, SERP API, and the memory. So you'll have that, and then what you can do is like click this, and it's gonna sort of, you can sort of chat with this from here. So the good thing about n8n is like it has a visual first build. So what that means is like it the creators have tried their best to like have everything visual. So even if you ask the question, it shows like what sort of more nodes get triggered. So it's very good to understand how it's sort of behaving. So I can say, eh, so I just asked the question. So it get triggered. So it shows like, okay, first it went to the OpenAI chat model. It first checked if that's the answer you need to check in the memory. That's the first step, and then went to OpenAI, sort of called that and got a result. And we got the response. And while we're getting that, it also updated the memory with the question we asked. I'm gonna try and like do something now. I'm gonna say, you tell me what's on your so this should trigger a search generally. So as you can see, it's going and doing a Google search, and it returned the results back. Now it's sort of analyzing, and I'm going to summarize what it got. So obviously the result, we probably get like 20 results, and it sort of returned those value to us. As you can see, just checking if these are latest. Yeah, so I think like, these are very famous news these days, BBC versus Trump. Yeah, so I think definitely relatively new. So I think you can like ask anything relative to the latest news, you can get that answer. But this is just a very simple example. You can do a lot more with it. And and I'll try and ask if it would. So if you have Redis cache, it wouldn't trigger the SERP API because you have the answer for this question. But I don't think it will happen this time because it will trigger SERP API again. So like if you're building like a bit more complex scenario, you can sort of have cache here. So that means like rather than not just memory, but also it keep tracks of the questions you asked and the answers you got. So that makes it much faster for you to like get the results back. So that's the simplest possible agent that you can build. And there are thousand ways to build other agents. I also want to like touch upon like these features. So this is the editor mode. So you edit and add nodes, wire nodes together, do configuration. Uh, but you can go to executions and you can see how each executions went. So I don't need this one right now. I'll delete this to keep things simple. So I go to execution, you can see um, all the executions that happened in this run. So how it each step, and first it triggers the went to this node memory, and then OpenAI then did a search the Google search. So the query was latest news. So even though I didn't ask latest news, I asked, can you tell me what's happening today? So when I asked that, it summarized the question I asked and then sort of send that to SERP API. So the OpenAI node did that. And then we got the results back. So there's a long response, like the title, link, and everything. So you can use these as you see fit. But right now it's just a summary of it. And then it's sent back to the LLM, and it does just a summary of it so that we can read it. And then it's sent back. While doing that, it also updated the memory. So you have the chat history here. So you can you can see there's the chat history getting updated. So you'll have a memory of your conversation that it understands. So there are nuances around this, like if the chat history is long enough, it will start losing memory because I think buffer is around like 5 chats or maybe 10 chats. So if it's getting larger, you need to figure out a way to like how do you summarize the chat and like maintain that information so the longer conversation has the context, so it won't start hallucinating as you go through the conversation. So those are like minor sort of engineering things that you need to think about, but for a basic agent you don't have to worry too much about it. And Yeah, I think another thing I want to touch upon is So right now it's an inactive tag, so inactive agent. So you can make it active, so you can expose this to external sort of websites. So if you wanna get this chat configured to one of your UIs in the front end in your application, you can easily do that. You can sort of make this active and sort of share the URL for this, and then anybody can converse with it. So that's the beauty of this sort of n8n. You can directly get into production. You don't have to worry too much about it. You can locally test this and sort of expose that. So it's much faster to build things as long as you understand how to connect and wire these things together. Yeah. Um, okay, I think let me check if there are any questions in the chat. Yeah, I think gonna go back to the slides. Quite a few questions. I'm gonna pick them up as we go. Um, so this I'll quickly show. I think the next one is also about like the agent building part, which we did right now. Um, yeah, I think as you can see, like there are like quite a few types of components for n8n. So there are triggers, which is like to webhook, chat message, what we did right now, cron jobs, which is based on time or a specific logical trigger. And then there are different types of actions that you can do, like API calls, DB updates, AI calls, like OpenAI calls. And there's logic nodes. We didn't go into this. Like you can have, depending on the results that you get, you can sort of create like ifs and switch statements, split into branches, etc. So you can do those things within n8n. Really important thing is like data nodes. So if you get a data set, you can sort of transform that, and even um, you also have code blocks. What that means is like if you get a data set and if you run a specific script, you can have that. So you don't have to wait on a specific node to do your task. You can write custom Python or JavaScript nodes, scripts, and then you can get it running. So it's quite useful. And also credentials, you can store quite a few, like obviously it's credentials within n8n so that you can do all the API calls in a secure way. And also you have the execution angle, which means that you have quite a few logs that you can read within n8n. Like it gives a lot more control over your agents and the tools that you build so that you can debug them really well compared to other tools out there. So I think those are some of the highlights of n8n that I would say that helps you build really cool, very useful AI workflows. This we covered right now. So we looked at building an AI agent right now. So it's pretty much the same thing that we did. Um, and we can sort of extend this, right? So I think like this is the part I want like for you guys to go home and think about like how you're going to sort of extend this. Um, and things like connecting Google Calendar. So you can connect an agent that sort of answers, okay, in the morning you can sort of ask, okay, what's on my calendar? You don't have to look at it. You would probably answer it very quickly. Go and read your calendar and give an answer to you. And even like scheduling things in your calendar, sort of updating things like that, you can easily do within it. And so as long as you give the right kind of credentials and got the authorization, you can do that. So yeah, there are quite a few features that you can think about how you can extend this agent. So that's for after this session, so you guys can try it out. So I think like there are few more slides that I can go through, but before that, I want to like try and ask some questions. So this is about like the data flow logic. But I think like these things you guys can relatively read as well. But I want to like use this time to answer some of the questions. I'll share some resources at the end. You can read through some of the questions, and if you guys want to unmute yourself and ask questions, happy to answer them as well. Yeah, go ahead, Sanju. Yeah. No, it's a good question. So the reason is the type of memory that you used is like a simple memory field. It just stores the information. It doesn't have the feature to check, like it doesn't have the cache feature that to check and if the question is the same to give an answer from that. So if you use something like Redis node, it will do that. So if you have Redis, it will cache the answer and the question and the answer, and it will give the results really fast. So that's what I want to check as well. So because it's a simple memory, that's why I didn't do that. Does that
Thank
answer?
you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I mean, really good question. I'm gonna pronounce this wrong. a name wrong. Is it Hoge? I guess it's Hoge. How's the concurrency limits for simultaneous management of concurrent users triggering something? Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. I think we'll start hitting limitations when it comes to around 100 plus concurrent users. So there's something called n8n queue mode that sort of enables you to sort of expand beyond like so you can sort of have like a distributed nature for n8n. So it has limitations, but I think like you can sort of scale within n8n as well. I would say like up to like 100 users. I haven't seen much issue, but beyond that, yes, you need to think about maybe moving away from n8n and thinking about like AWS based build where you can have infinite scale as long as you have the compute and the parallel processing power. Um, yeah, there's another question. Thoughts on using ChatGPT agents versus the platforms like n8n? Yeah, I think n8n is obviously seems like the there are like pros and cons for sure. Obviously ChatGPT agents are not open source in the sense that you can't like deploy them locally. So n8n provides you that opportunity, and ChatGPT relatively runs within their sort of ecosystem. Probably I mean, obviously they have MCP connections and like API connections, but n8n is relatively mature. But then again, ChatGPT might take over them in the process. But I think the biggest difference are around like this local nature of n8n, that you can have local deployment where ChatGPT doesn't have that. But yeah, I think like obviously those are competitors. Depending on the use case, I'll pick something between the two. Yeah, and I think there's a question around, is there a cheat sheet explaining the different nodes in n8n? 100% yes. They have a really good doc. So so I think like this is something I want to share as well. So so if you go here n8n.io/workflows, let me see if I can open this. So this is the place where you can find all sorts of examples. So building your first agent, which is similar to what we did today. But there are like other contributors who's contributing and creating workflows that works for them. And the good thing about it, so if I go to this side, so you can sort of go to one of these, open it, and you'll see the description of this, and you can copy paste this. So that's the best thing. Um, so you can go here, so you directly sort of copy paste the agent. So you can now use that. Obviously, you need to wire up your sort of credentials, but you have the agent directly. So there are like around how many? I saw like 7,000, yeah, 6,000 plus agents examples you can use, and like pretty much this covers 80% of the use cases that the problems that you may have would definitely be come across by someone else, and you'll see a version of this here. And they also have a really good docs on this. If you go to documentation, you have like learning paths that you can go through, and there's also the glossary, so you can sort of read through different sort of concepts in general in AI as well, but also the types of innate and specific sort of workflows, things around flow logic. So these are I talked about, like how we can sort of branch and sort of do error handling, looping, merging data, all kinds of things that you can do with it and can be done, explained here, so you can read. Other thing is like there's the chat with docs feature, so you don't have to like go through each. You just ask, could you explain um, why I should use n8n as opposed to, I don't know if this will answer this. This is a very complex question, but it can sort of, if there's a resource, it will pull that up. So it will give the answers that you need. So so this is up to date. It's get re-indexed probably every 12 hours or 24 hours. So you get like really up to date answers. So you can get references as well. So it's really good. And also like if you go back to the agent itself, you have the AI agent mode. So you can ask it to build the agent for you. So I was like initially asking create an agent that can do chat and do SERP API search. So it sort of figure it out and went through and build it for me. So I did this before we start the session just to make sure that we can use that without building it from scratch. So it created that. So that's the power of n8n. They have like integrated AI well into the system. And like you can similar to as you vibe code like a app, you can vibe code like an n8n workflow here and get it to working. So yeah, that's a really cool feature, I would say. Um, yeah, sorry, that was a question. Um, yeah, how are the semantic capabilities of n8n agent?
Thank you.
Yeah, Sanjeev. Thanks. How are semantic capabilities of the n8n agent? It needs some rack support. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, if you mean like semantic, obviously, if you plug in like a OpenAI sort of LLM model, definitely you'll get the reasoning and agentic capabilities. But if you're thinking about adding more information like data, obviously you can connect a RAG. So if you go here, you can find a very easily RAG solution here. Um, let's see. There's quite a few, right? So there's a RAG chatbot. You can very easily copy this. There's this here, and probably need to connect a chat model from the top. But beyond that, you have the LLM model, you have the vector database, and you need to connect another vector embedding model here so that the vector database gets the chunked information within the embeddings, so you can do retrieval, etc. So you need to have that. But beyond that, this is the simplest sort of form of RAG solution that you can build, and then you can sort of have a RAG solution very easily. You don't need to think beyond that. This if I need to build a rack system, this is the first thing I'll do. Like I'll get it tested, and I'll probably connect something like Superbase. So you have Superbase vector store, you connect that, and then so that can be easy sort of connected. You can connect embeddings. So embeddings are the models like the LLM models that helps you to sort of understand your query and find the similarities between the question and the data store and then get the relevant information from there. You need to sort of connect an embedding model for that. So generally, you'll connect like a vector store with an embedding model. But yeah, yeah, really good question. Okay, there are quite a few questions. Let me see. Um, let me see. Yeah, you mentioned ChatGPT and Gemini. Is Microsoft Copilot compatible with n8n? Not directly, but you can deploy the local version. So I've done that multiple times. You can set up n8n on a server within it. Um, Microsoft and Azure ecosystem, and then you can connect your Copilot to n8n workflows. That's going to open up quite a few possibilities because I know Copilot has limitations around the prompting style, the agent creation, so it's relatively very limiting. But with n8n connection, you can expose quite a lot with Copilot. So if you're on like AWS, like Azure Server Solution, do reach out. I know how to do this. Like definitely happy to help share some resources around this. So D asks, what are some ways to limit cost while learning and testing flows? Yeah, 100% very good question. So obviously, yeah, it's a really valuable answer. Okay, it's like use it locally for sure. I think the other things are like use Gemini. Gemini has an free API key. So I'll quickly show if I can show you that. Sort of AI Studio. Google. So if we go here, I don't know if I can check this. Yeah, I haven't opened this on this email. Let's see. Oh, I said yes to. Um, so you go to get API key. Here you can sort of create API key and you name it like just sort of create a project or you say default Gemini project and create an API key. Takes a bit of time. And yeah, I just need to copy this and go to an n8n side, whether it's a local or the cloud version, and use it add a Gemini model. This one, depending what you add, yeah, there are quite a few. Let's see. Wait. So you can sort of create your sort of Gemini endpoint from here. So I mean, yeah, I mean, simply put, like try and use free resources as much as possible and write locally. I think that's the simplest task I can give. Um, are there any questions? Yeah, feel free to like ask directly as well. Don't have to type. Yeah, the yes, locally means not the cloud. And then, so you still have this on a browser, but it will be locally running. So it's on your browser, on your sort of computer. Think I'm just going up. I just bought a server with open source n8n built in. What capabilities limitation does it have compared to the cloud edition you are demonstrating? How about AI? How about AI in my version? Yes, you get almost all the features, I would say. For obviously there could be limitations. I'm sure there are limitations, like, but like to get the normal work done, I think it's more than enough. And like with AI, obviously you can have integrations with connecting OpenAI model, creating rack system, multi-agent systems. You can do anything with this open source version. No issues there. You can directly connect it. Can we change agent system prompt? Rather, yes, you can. So we can change the system prompt. Sorry. How did this compare Gemini workflows? Um, do you mean Gemini workflows means is it Gemini build? I wouldn't know. Um, what do you mean by Gemini workflows, Mary? I wasn't sure. I haven't used Gemini workflows specifically. Do you mean like using Gemini as a model in the agent, or? But yeah, do clarify. Happy to answer that. Workflow you created request to create architecture for other workflows. Can it create complex workflows? N8n more powerful compared to that's the it's hard to say. It depends on the use case. I don't know like what Gemini workflows means, whether it's um like the fact that I haven't used it means could be possibly that it's not matured yet, like popular enough. But if you have some thoughts on it, like let me know like what it does, and like happy to like explore that. So yeah. But yeah, N8n is quite good. Like still it's one of the preferred methods by quite a few people. Obviously there are limitations for sure. The workflow you created request to create architecture for other workflows. Can it create complex workflow? Yeah, for sure. You can sort of wire in like any number of workflows, create like sequential or like this graph based sort of workflows. You can create a lot more complex ones for sure. No worries, Mary. Just scrolling up. Um, the workflow that I had. Yeah, I think I probably I could share that for sure. It's a very simple workflow though. Let me see. But yeah, I'll probably email that like when I send this across. So I'll have that sent out. But if I didn't, please do reach out. Happy to share this. I mean, yeah, something like this. I don't know if I copy this, what would look like. It's too long to paste in the chat, but I'll email this. Like it looks like a JSON object, so I'll I'll sort of email that. Yeah, cool. I can take one more question if there's anything, but otherwise we could wrap it up. Really enjoy the session today. Really good conversation. And do reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to sort of answer any questions you may have on AI and like yeah. So yeah, just want to help everyone.